everyone, especially to our instructor, Ma'am Rubibel Camacho. I am Laimei Silandao taking the Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. So for today's video, I will be creating a video presentation about the chapter 14, Rizal in London in year 1888 to 1889. Chapter 14, Rizal in London, 1888 to 1889. After visiting the United States, Rizal lived in London from May 1888 to March 1889. He chose this English city to be his new home for three reasons. 1. To improve his knowledge of English language. 2. To study and annotate Morga's Sucesos de las Filipinas, a rare copy of which he heard to be available in British Museum. And 3. London was a safe place for him to carry on his fight against Spanish tyranny. Trip across the Atlantic. Rizal entertained the American and European passengers with his marvelous skill with yo-yo as an offensive weapon. The yo-yo is a small wooden disc attached to a string from a finger. It is used by Filipino children as a toy. Rizal arrived at Liverpool, England on May 24, 1888. He stayed one day in the port city, spending the night at the Adelphi Hotel, Liverpool, wrote to his family. It's a big and beautiful city, and its celebrated port is worth of its great fame. Life in London. On May 25, 1888, a day after docking at Liverpool, Rizal went to London. For a short time, he stayed as a guest at the home of Dr. Antonio Rigidor, an exile of 1872 and a practicing lawyer in London. He was boarder of the Becket family. Mr. and Mrs. Becket has 2 sons and 4 daughters. The older Becket sister was Gertrude, called Getty or Tutti by her friends. The Becket home was Rizal conveniently located. Rizal came to know Dr. Reinhold Ross, the librarian of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Authority of Malayan Languages and Customs. Dr. Ross, impressed by Rizal's learning and character, and he gladly recommended him to the authorities of the British Museum. He called Rizal a pearl of a man, or una perla de hombre. Annotating Morga's book. The greatest achievement of Rizal was the annotating of Morga's book, Sucesos de las Filipinas, Historical Events of Philippine Island, which was published in Mexico 1609. Short visit to Paris and Spain. Early in September 1888, he visited Paris for a week in order to search for more historical materials in the Bibliothèque Nationale. On December 11, 1888, he went to Spain to visit Madrid and Barcelona. For the first time, he met Marcelo H. del Pilar and Mariano Pons, 2 titans of the propaganda movement. Christmas in London. Christmas in London. Rizal returned to London on December 24 and spent Christmas and New York City days with the Beckets. That night, he wrote to Bloomingtreet, "It is now Noche Buena, or Christmas Eve. It is the holiday I like best to celebrate." Rizal becomes leader of Filipinos in Europe. Rizal learned that the Filipinos in Barcelona were planning to establish a patriotic society which would cooperate in the crusade for reforms. The society, called Asociación La Solidaridad, in English, Solidaridad Association, was inaugurated on December 31, 1888 with the following officers: Dalican Aprisabol, President Cristiano Lopez Haina, Vice President Manuel Santa Maria, Secretary Mariano Pons, Treasurer, and Jose Panganiban, Accountant. Rizal and the La Solidaridad newspaper. On February 15, 1889, Graciano Lopez Haina founded the patriotic newspaper called La Solidaridad in Barcelona, where he was the residing. This was a fortnightly periodic which served as the organ of the propaganda movement. It aims as follows: 1. To work peacefully for political and social forms. 2. To portray the deplorable conditions of the Philippines so that Spain may remedy them. 3. To oppose the evil forces of reaction and medievalism. 4. To advocate liberal ideas and progress. And 5. To champion the legitimate aspiration of the Filipino people to life, democracy, and happiness. First article in La Solidaridad. Rizal first article which appeared in La Solidaridad entitled Los Agricultores Filipinos, in English, The Filipino Farmers. It was published in March 25, 1889, 6 days after he left London. Writing in London, Rizal received news on Fray Rodriguez, an abated attack on his Nole. In defense, he wrote a pamphlet entitled La Vision de Fray Rodriguez, in English, The Vision of Fray Rodriguez, which was published in Barcelona under his nom de plume Dimas Alam. In Las Vision de Fray Rodriguez, Rizal demonstrated two things. 1. His profound knowledge in religion, and 2. His biting satire. Romance with Gertrude Becket. Rizal had a romantic interlude with the oldest of the three Becket sisters, Gertrude Getty, as she was affectionately was a buxom English girl with brown hair, blue eyes, and rosy cheeks. She fell in love with Rizal. Before leaving London, he finished 4 sculpture works. 1. Prometheus Bond. 2. The Triumph of Death over Life. 3. The Triumph of Science over Death. 4. A composite carving of the heads of the Becket sisters. The last named carving he gave as a farewell gift to the Becket sisters. He packed the Triumph of Death over Life and the Triumph of Science over Death and sent them to his friend Professor Blumentritt in Les Mérites. 1. Prometheus Bond. 2. The Triumph of Death over Life. 3. The Triumph of Science over Death. Adios, London. Suddenly, on March 19, 1889, Rizal bade goodbye to the kind Becket family, particularly Gertrude, and left London for Paris. He was sad as he crossed the English Channel, for he cherished so many beautiful memories of London.